Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Tea Crane. Today we're keeping the light natural and the artificial lights turned off. It makes it a little cooler inside. I hope it doesn't get too dark. We get some reflection from outside. And, well, we're just going to enjoy another chat. We visited Mandokoro last weekend and we went for a tea picking. If you haven't seen the YouTube video that I made about it, it's the newest video available on the YouTube channel. So I would also definitely recommend to have a look at that and get an idea for what such a tea picking is like. And luckily, we also got quite a few questions about this visit and the region and etc. So we'll also address some of those questions, provide some more information, talk a bit about our experiences, and meanwhile, we'll enjoy some Mandokoro sencha from last year's harvest. Because unfortunately, this year's harvest is picked, but it's only roughly processed, and the final processing, the finishing, still has to happen, and that's usually after the harvest is completed. So we estimate to see some fresh Mandokoro sencha from this year's harvest in by around mid-June. So I'm going to brew this sencha, and well, tell us a little bit about your experience having been to Mandokoro for the very first time.
Yeah. It was a really beautiful location. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of Japan is kind of the landscape and the countryside. I like the public transportation a little bit too much to actually live in the countryside, of course, but it is always nice to visit every once in a while. And Mandokoro is kind of up in the mountains in Shiga, so it's especially beautiful, I think.
What did we do?
We were picking tea.
Yes. So.
And it was only my second time hand picking tea. My first time was in Ujidawara, and we didn't do a whole lot that time. So this was my second.
No, we got caught up doing some video stuff and sightseeing.
Yeah, we did quite a lot of picking this time. Ooh, this is nice.
Yeah, the Mandokoro visit is really about the picking. It's almost as if you go there for work. I mean,
almost as if.
They rely on the volunteers that come and pick the tea there, because, well, there's an aging population. There's not that many inhabitants, and there's definitely not a young population either. So they definitely rely on the help that you can bring in, and of course, if you just pick a little bit to see how the picking goes, then you're not contributing anything to their yearly production. So if you're there, you're like,
you really have
picking.
To.
You're in the tea garden and you're just picking from start to finish.
Yep. And we picked a lot of leaves. I don't know the final number, but it was quite a lot between those 2 days that we were there.
Yeah, we did pick a lot. Everyone picked a lot.
Yeah, everyone picked a lot.
There was a lot of pickers too.
Yeah, there was 10, 15 people.
On that one garden that we were, but then there were 2 gardens down below
as
well.
On the first day, there was a whole other, was it a university group, was it?
It was a university group. And there was another group as well from another farmer.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of which, I also saw the what is it? Straw shades for the gyokuro for the first time. I have always seen the black, like a cheesecloth covering, so it was interesting to see the straw ones, even though I didn't really get very close to it.
Yeah,
I just saw it from
Watch the YouTube video that I made, because in the end of the video I have a little peek into the straw covered tea garden, and also have a look at the straw covers themselves. The old ladies of the village, they basically tie them together by hand, and they use long rice straw from glutinous rice that is used for the mochi cakes and stuff, because they grow taller. And it makes a wider, well,
Screen shade.
yeah, you have a wider shade.
Hmm.
But of course, you have to put it all together by hand, and to get about a meter takes about an hour.
Oof.
So it's very intense work, and
They do
that is
that
then
every
used.
year, don't they?
Yes, they try to reuse them as much as possible, but of course they also age. They're natural material. They deteriorate, and so they have to add new every
Hmm.
year.
Okay. Well, so they don't start from zero every
Every
single
year,
year.
no.
Okay.
Luckily.
Can only imagine how much time that would take.
So there's that, and there's also the factory visit. There's a
Mhm.
very tiny factory in Mandokoro that um, visited, and I've shown some shots from as well.
Mhm.
Now we got a few questions, and most of the answers to all the questions about Mandokoro, like where is it, who's doing it, etc. Those are already addressed in a video that I made last year. I made two videos about Mandokoro, and of course, a lot of the information is also available on my homepage because I have all the information about all the
Mhm.
producers that I work with. So on the homepage, there's also an entire page dedicated to Mandokoro. So for more information about Mandokoro itself, what it's like, where it's from, etc., you can go to my homepage, look at that page, and then also watch those. There's two videos, part one, part two, about Mandokoro that I made last year. So you can watch those as well. But we'll address some of the questions that we got. First of all, where is Mandokoro?
It's up in Shiga, which is the prefecture kind of east, north of Kyoto. It's where Biwako is, Lake Biwa, and it is, I guess, in between Kyoto and Nagoya, if I'm thinking correctly.
It's closer towards Nagoya.
Yeah.
It's almost
Mandokoro is,
already on the other end of the prefecture. It's like a long, a wide prefecture actually, and
Mhm.
it's on the far eastern side, where there's also a temple called Eigenji,
Mm.
and there up in the mountains is Mandokoro.
Mm.
It's Is it the other question here, and I'm already going to address it? Is it remote or off a train stop? It's inaccessible if you don't have a car. There is a bus, and I know people who have been up there by bus and came back, but I think there were only 4 or 5 buses a day. So you have to get up there with the first bus that is around like 8 or 9,
Mm.
and then come back with the last bus, which is around 4 or something. So you don't have very much time, and it's well, train and bus, and I mean probably various trains to get to that point in Shiga, and it's going to take you a while to get there by public transport. So no, really, I would say it's almost inaccessible if you don't have transport of your own.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's quite remote.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I looked up the population of Mandokoro going in, and Google at least said it was 109 people in Mandokoro village. So just
And I
to give
do
you
know
an
that there
idea
are a
of,
few villages together.
right.
So
Yeah.
there's Mandokoro village, then there's the next village, and there's
There's
like
a
4 or 5 villages that are clustered together.
right.
Mandokoro is one of it, and there's like 109. You said?
Yeah, 109 just in that one part. So it's not
Mhm.
like 109 people in the entire like in that region, and there's nobody else for miles.
Well,
It's
Mandokoro is probably the most popular of the villages, and the village next door is only has 10 households.
Jeez.
Mm.
10 households.
Yeah, I was talking to a younger lady that just moved there and does something for research about these smaller rural communities. And yeah, there's only 10 households that
Wow.
live there. There are more houses, but there's a lot of houses that are empty or inhabited, uninhabited.
Which is a problem in the countryside in Japan.
Definitely Mandokoro too, because well, if the house gets older, then Mandokoro knows a lot of snow.
Ah.
And this year they had 2 meters of snow, and a few of the houses also, well, collapsed. The roof collapsed because of
Yikes.
the snow on it, and you have to, of course, take care of it. So that's another thing that also happens in Mandokoro. Let's have a look at another question. Do they charge visitors who want to pick leaves? Yes, they do. It's funny. It's not the same everywhere, but in Mandokoro, it's interesting though, because it's addressed as an experience where you go to and you contribute um, to their cause, but also you get to, well, experience what it is to pick tea leaves. But basically, you're there and you're intensely working with them, and you're just trying to harvest as much as you can and as properly as you can, so that so so that they have enough tea produced. But you still pay a small fee for. I think they deal with well, a little bit of organization, a little bit of insurance for everyone if there's something that needs to be addressed or that happens. So those administrational fees, of course, have to be covered, and so everyone contributes a little bit, and then basically works for free.
Yep.
So
And they provide snacks and water and
yes,
drinks and everything. So, and
yes, they did.
yeah, and they provided those cool packs because it was a pretty hot day, and the hiru spray.
Ah,
What is that
yes,
in
yes,
English?
yes.
Leech, I think.
Yes,
Leech
like
spray.
Japanese
just in case.
leeches.
So yeah, they took care of us.
Mhm.
We got some things in return as well.
No, of course. Then, do you have to be invited, or is it open to the public? It's somewhere in between. It's not that you just go up there on the day and say, I come for picking. No, you do have to register in front. So, of course, someone will have to let you know that they are going to have a picking and where to sign up for it. So it's more of an, well, the people who know what is going on in Mandokoro that will have the opportunity to go and to also bring some friends. So that's really how that works. And what do you do with the leaves you picked? Well, those are for the producer.
Get processed and turned into tea, and the
They get,
producers.
yes. Now, with Mandokoro, really the issue is that they don't have much labor. They don't have many hands really in Mandokoro because there's such
So few
a
people.
small population. They're already all helping each other at their gardens. And also, they're not very young. Most of them have, well, are quite old. The average age of Mandokoro village is around 70. So most of the old ladies that inhabit the place are 80, 90 years old. Yeah, so they're pretty short on labor. So what they try to do is to let the tea of Mandokoro survive in the most traditional way, but do that with people who want to contribute and help Mandokoro tea to continue existing. That is how it's done, and that is really what you as a participant do. So you contribute your effort. You enjoy being in the tea gardens in nature for a day, pick the tea, and then the tea is just handed over to the producer who packs all the tea of all the participants that day together and then processes it into sencha.
Yes.
And they have that little facility, that little factory there that they use to make the tea. And
And that looks like they were processing the leaves from all of the farms in the area. It
Yes,
wasn't
they
just
do.
one farm like when I was volunteering last year.
Hmm.
We had quite a lot. They had a lot of those crates holding the leaves all lined up, waiting to be steamed and
Yep.
processed.
And because there's only one factory, you sometimes have to wait a little bit before the tea can actually be
Right.
processed.
Mm-hmm.
So that also, well, causes the tea to wither a little bit. And for Mandokoro tea, that's actually pretty good because it makes it well, it gives it a nice aroma. Sometimes it can only be processed the next day, and you've been picking one day from morning till evening, gathering all the leaf. But the leaf from the morning is, of course, also already started oxidizing, withering, and then you leave it another night, and of course,
24 hours
you've
until
got a little bit of oxidation going. But it makes Mandokoro tea all the nicer, I would say.
Yeah, it is a very. It does have. You can kind of taste a little bit of, oxidation taste, a little bit of floweriness.
A withering fragrance, I would call it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A little bit of that.
A little bit of that.
fragrance. But it is a very mellow tea. I really like this one.
It's very, very gentle, very soft.
Yes.
It's also not fertilized that very harshly. They've just taken care of the soil with some fallen leaves, branches, etc. But other than that, really, they haven't done any immense fertilization. So they just let the tea trees that grow their roots very deep. I mean, those roots, they go very deep to layers of soil that go
hundreds of years in the past, imagine.
millions.
Millions.
Millions of years back in the past. Yes, they bring the energy of the dinosaurs to our cup. I would say.
And those plants are all zaidai.
They're all
native seed grown, if I recall correctly.
Yes, absolutely.
And I imagine most cultivars wouldn't do very well up there because of get so much snow in the winter.
Exactly. Some Yabukita is grown there, but other cultivars, they would snap under the weight of the snow. You have 2 meters of snow in winter that cover the tea bushes, so they get on top of the tea bushes. And what the native species there do is they bend, and when the snow melts, they come back up. So that's also what you see with the old tea tree, 300-year-old tea tree, probably the oldest one remaining in Japan. If you'd see such a tree somewhere else, you'd expect a massive tree to stand in front of you. But here, when you go, you're like, where is it? Well, what has happened is that it hasn't grown up. It's grown to the sides. It's spread out, and it's like lying there on the soil. And it's got quite an energy. It's very, very powerful. But you see, it's like just lying there, and it's got a little cubs around because
the little bushlings.
They've got bushlings from the same root.
It's just growing out in the network.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that has come up, and they've cut those back, and now they're getting fresh bushes with nice fresh tea leaf
from this 300-year-old plant.
From this 300-year-old plant. So those are roots that are feeding very fresh young bushes with nutrients from the dinosaur age, so to say. Who owns the plantation? The owner that we visited is Yamagata-san. Her information is also on the homepage, and that's the person I always go to. She's probably the youngest inhabitant of the entire village, and she's doing her best to, well, bring a lot of people together to, well, let Mandokoro continue to exist. And I, of course, want to support those efforts. So that's who we go to. And she also has a few things to say in the video that I made last year. So there's a little interview about her efforts and what she's doing in Mandokoro. So you can see her in that video, as well as in this year's video, the video that I posted last week. Well, this week, actually, from last week's visit. She's the one who, in Japanese, explains how to pick tea. and I've put subtitles under it so that you can understand. But so she's doing the explaining, so you can have a look at that as well. And then our last question: can you use the leaves you picked, or do they need to be processed by the owners of the plantation? Well, we said, we of course give all the leaf back to the owners of the plantation, but I did fill my pockets with a little bit of
Pocket tea.
stolen tea. I picked a little bit of tea. I gathered it in my pockets, and then when I got home 2 days later, I dried it in the sun, and now I have some white tea, shirocha, white tea from Mandokoro. And I will brew that one up, but I'll also come over and show it to you.
Yeah.
So this is the white tea. It's a little bit dark to see very well, but...
And how did you say you processed?
Okay. Well, we'll just tell you about it. So, as you might have been able to see, which is a little doubtful because it's a bit dark here to show it very well in front of the camera. But you see that the leaf has been slightly withered. It's slightly browned. There's a lot of fresh green in there still.
Not much of an aroma.
You'll have to exhale onto it.
Like to get it warm?
Yes. No, not like that. No, out your nose.
Still pretty light, but there's a little bit of woodiness almost. Leafy nature-ness.
So something that tea farmers always do when they get the finished leaf, they would just stuff it in their face and then breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out on it. So what you do when you're looking at the dry leaf and getting some aroma is basically you just exhale onto it so that your breath warms up the leaf and then you inhale it again. Good. So now put that back in there. And I will just brew it and have a look at how that turned out. So, well, you don't get to take your own leaf home, but you can always fill your pockets with a little bit. And of course, then the freshly picked leaf will start to oxidize a little bit. And I'll just let it oxidize slightly. And then when you think it's enough, or when you have a spare moment, you just lay it out in the sun, let it dry. And the sun will be warm enough to stop the oxidation, so to keep it green where needed, and also just dry the leaf out. So you have a white tea, basically. That's how white tea is made. It's very simple. But if you want to make a good white tea, then you'll have to look for only the best buds, the tips, etc. And Japanese tea is not so great for producing big dips, so you also take some leaf, and it tastes a little bit different from the white tea that you'd know from China. So very bulky. It's not rolled either. So when I brew it, I'm not going to do short infusions. I'm actually going to take quite a long infusion and let it steep, because it's not rolled, not processed, anything. It's going to take a while to give off some fragrance at all, some flavor. But first, let's enjoy the tea in the warm
Mm.
juice. Tell us what that does.
It's definitely there's something that most green teas don't have. A little bit of that withering or oxidized flavor again. A little flowery or nutty almost.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
It's not quite,
sourness
yeah, not quite so
that makes
vegetal.
it more flowery,
Mm.
floral. All right, let it steep. Let's see what it turns out like. This is an experience that you can basically only have in this season when you pick some new tea,
Right.
and otherwise, we'll just have to wait for the new tea from Mandokoro to be processed and to come out. And we'll be looking forward to that. Also, looking forward to introducing that. We also spent the stays camping,
Oh yes, that was fun.
and we had a good thunder and lightning storm.
Yep, right out of nowhere. It was supposed to be not bad weather. It was supposed to be no clouds,
Bright,
and
clear sky.
clear skies, and then out of nowhere there's thunder and lightning and a torrential rain. It was great.
It was just when I was thinking I'm going to put the table in the tent and go get ready for bed that it started. So it was perfect timing.
We had some tea on the fire as well.
Yep. It's always nice.
Was that all the questions we had from the...
That's all the questions we got from the video. So if you haven't seen the video, I would definitely say have a look. If you want to know more, look on
channel.
Yes, look on my homepage and also go to my channel to have a look at the videos from last year. And
yeah, of course, if you have any questions now, feel free to leave a comment.
Yes, we have some time for that while we're waiting for this tea to come out.
Right,
When the tea is ready, then of course we'll talk more about the tea. But now we just have to wait. Let it sit a bit.
Well, while we have a few minutes, since we've talked about bancha in previous videos, I can mention Shiga's regional bancha, which this was the first time I tried that as well. Just called Hira bancha.
That's actually only Mandokoro's regional bancha.
Only Mandokoro, okay.
It's not a Shiga thing.
It's not a Shiga thing.
Yeah, it's very specific to Mandokoro even.
Is there some reason that it never really spread?
Because bancha is always local. It's not something you spread. It's just the people from a place that have some tea bushes at hand that figure out a way to process the tea, and they do it.
And it's just that Mandokoro is kind of a isolated tea region that it doesn't really spread. Like Kyoto has it's kind of spread all over Kyoto from Uji, and lots of people drink tea from Uji, so it kind of spreads, or wherever the bancha is coming from. But Mandokoro just hasn't really diffused their style of bancha.
What are you referring to?
Just how bancha, the Hira bancha hasn't really...
You mean other people drinking it, or
yes.
the way of making it?
Yes.
Because even in Kyoto, the making way is very local. It's basically Uji tea, and it's made in certain places. But then from there, probably the people that drink it will get more of it. Mandokoro I mean, we have it here, so we drink it too. It's gotten out of Mandokoro. But I would say it's very regional specific to Mandokoro, this hirabancha, because they steam the leaf for 30 minutes.
Hmm.
And no other place does that.
Hmm.
Hmm. So that makes it special.
Well, it was an interesting experience, that as well. It's a
Well,
little bit sour.
Oh, the tea, the taste
The
of it,
tea,
yes.
yes.
You can also see how that tea is made in part 2 of the Mandokoro video series that I made last year. So you see actually in the factory that this same small factory is sort of transformed into now a bancha production facility. And the same machines are used, but in a different way. So now it's completely sencha focused, and bancha is then what they make with the same facility later in the year. Now, bancha is always kind of a really local thing because it's not considered a tea that is even worth considering. It's something for a local population to drink. In the past, actually, people couldn't drink anything else than bancha. Even tea producers couldn't drink anything other than bancha because they had to produce the tea for the local landlord and present everything. And then they would have a few tea bushes that they could use for their own, but they couldn't, well, produce good tea with that. They needed to make something that they could just drink and enjoy. So bancha is always something that was just for the people there. And each region has their own approach to it, which makes bancha really interesting as a research project because every local region you go to has a different approach to bancha that also reflects their different approach to life because bancha is always made with the equipment that they have in the kitchen. So it's actually representation of the the local food culture, living standards, etc. It's an area that has not been explored sufficiently yet. But will also take a lot of time to explore properly. Right, let's have a taste. What did you think of the fragrance of the leaf now it is infused?
Again, very unique. It's changed a bit, of course, since the first whiff before it was brewed. Couldn't really put my finger on what notes are there, though.
So there's more sourness that comes to the fore now. Its fragrance has increased tremendously. And I would say there's some, I would call that acidity more like the acidity of tomato. Maybe a little bit of grape or, blue rain, Fuji. Kind of a purple scent. I don't know if purple does not have a scent, but sometimes when you think of purple, you associate it with a certain scent. And then let's have a taste of the tea. Tremendously sweet in the aftertaste.
Yeah. The aroma is still a little bit sour, but you don't really get any of that in the actual flavor. Maybe a little bit at the beginning.
A little bit sourness though. But once you swallow it, it's just sweetness.
Yeah, still very mellow, but
sweetness all over.
Yeah, it's entirely different from any other green tea that normally or I guess technically it's not a green tea. Or is white tea considered? I know they're close, but
This is not a green tea.
right.
This is a white tea.
I know the processing is similar.
So I would say is making tea like this really expresses a lot of the quality of the tea and the tea region that you've visited, because there's really nothing done to it, and you only get the flavor that the tea presents to you.
There's no roasting or any
No
other
roasting,
flavors added.
no processing at all. So it's really purely what the
what the leaf has in it.
what the leaf has, exactly. So this
Oh,
white
very
tea
good.
approach is really good to get an idea of what the tea region is like. What the well, not the entire region, but the tea garden, the tea field.
It's a little bit of earthiness or woodiness. Did we get a question?
Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for joining us now as well. And white tea is really a nice one to just try. I mean, this is not a proper product. This is just some tea that I put in my pockets that happened to oxidize, and then I put it out in the sun and it dried, and we're now drinking it. So that's all there is to it. But it's really nice and aromatic.
And like you said, white tea is not a really big thing in Japan. You don't get a lot of them.
No, not at all. And it's a lot of, well, the tea trees themselves, they are not great for producing white tea either. And it's labor intensive because you would really want to make it from only the tips. But if the tips are so tiny, like on most Japanese tea trees, then I mean, picking only that is going to be
very lots of work and a lot of time for not a lot of tea.
Alrighty, thanks, Dylan. If you have any other questions, also like the one from your fire question, let us know. We're always happy to have new ideas for future sessions. So thanks for watching, and thanks for contributing as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. You can see already that the color is a little bit more intense than the first steeping. So gradually this tea also starts picking up a bit. It starts picking up after the second infusion and release more and different flavors and fragrances. So,
the sourness is really mellowed out. There's really that kind of middle woody or earthy flavor in there that's really coming forward.
Definitely some earthiness. And I would say that sweetness just doesn't go anywhere. It just
still there.
Yeah, it coats the entire inside of the mouth.
Very good.
So, for lack of having some, having new tea from this year, we have this. We've just picked some tea and made some tea out of it ourselves, so we can already taste what the tea this year tastes like. And I would say generally, it's very sweet. There's a good aroma to it. There's not much, well, there's sufficient content, but it's very,
mellow.
very clear.
Hmm.
I always or almost always brew these teas at right off the boil temperature. I don't really lower lower the water temperature for any of the teas that I brew. There's a few reasons for that. Most important reason probably is these teas are not as heavily fertilized, which means they don't have much flavor that you want to extract, not much umami flavor that you want to extract, and you just want to enjoy the aroma. So with this tea, I'm just brewing right off the boil hot water. So
It doesn't get too bitter.
it doesn't get too bitter because the bitterness really, the reason why tea gets bitter if you brew it too hot is because it's been fertilized too much. That's the only thing really. So even with this tea, I mean, I'm just brewing it right off the boil hot water, and it's not
leaving it in for several minutes at a time.
Yeah, leaving
Which you
it
could
for
never
several
do
minutes.
with over fertilized green teas.
Yeah. It depends. If you want to play around with the aroma and enjoy the aroma, you best brew it hotter. If you want to play around with the flavor and extract certain flavor components, then you play around with the temperature and bring the temperature down. But otherwise, I just enjoy drinking tea hot.
Now that it's summer, it's a good season for cold brew.
Don't bring that up in front of me.
Tias doesn't like it very much, but I start making cold brew in the summer. It's very good.
Drink your tea hot, even in the summer. That's what I would say. Because it just tastes so much better. And also, really, the way to adjust your body temperature is not by cooling your intestines down, but is by heating yourself up and properly letting your body perspire and adjust it the natural way. So sweating more is better in summer because that allows your body really to cool down like 1 or 2 degrees. So it's better to drink hot and sweat than to like all these ice creams and they've got towers of ice with syrup on it in Japan, and everyone goes and have that. It's just the worst thing you can do for your body. It just freezes your stomach and diminishes its capacity to function properly. And you only think you're cool, but your body temperature has not changed.
All right, sure. It tastes good though.
Sure. I mean, there are many things that could taste good. But again, that's for me not a reason to necessarily have it. So yes, I would say don't bother with the cold brew. Go for hot.
Well, is this the third brewing already?
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take this last question and let's wrap up for today. I'm still going to continue brewing this though. We'll have to again open the store. So we'll just finish this brew and take this last question. What is a good price for a good, decent kyusu? You can find them in all different price categories, price ranges. I generally would say that you find, right, let's just have a look at what I have here on the table. I have these tiny teapots. I like to use these. They're about 80, 90 cc, so around 100 milliliters, sorry. Yeah, 100 milliliters. And they brew enough for, I mean, if I have a tasting here with 4 people, including me, we all get our cups filled up 40, 50%. And I just use these teapots for 5 people, and it's more than enough. Everyone gets to taste a little bit, and if you, even if you're drinking alone, this is more than enough because you're going to be drinking
Multiple infusions.
5 infusions, so to say, from one leaf, one amount of leaf, which adds up, if you do it properly, 100 milliliters to already half a liter. These tiny teapots will brew you half a liter of tea, and then you might go for another type of tea, and you continue drinking and enjoying the moment. So I would say these 100 milliliter teapots are good, but of course, the tinier you go, the more difficult it gets to make them. So I have these teapots on the website for around $100 US, and then I have a size larger of around 200 milliliters, which is almost mug cup size. So it will get you a good amount of tea. If I have more than 5 participants, I would use those. Or if I just want to brew up a good batch to set in a mug cup next to me when I'm working, which I don't often do, then I might use that. And those are available also from the homepage at around $40-50, I think. So I would say that is for elementary teapots, something you would look at. What is important, of course, is the way it pours, the way it holds in the hand, how it handles, and also how much tea leaf it lets through to its mouth. The cheaper you go, the less effort has been put in the securing of the place in front of the tout. So you have the compartment where you put the leaf in, then you have some sort of a filter, and then you have the tout. And the more expensive the teapots become, the more work will have been put into that filter. So
But the cheaper ones are a little bit.
the cheaper ones are rougher or don't have any at all, and so your tea
right.
would just come out, and it will also brew you tea, but it's less nice to work with. These small ones, they all have a ceramic inside, so their holes opened up, and
The filter.
the filter, yeah.
It's not
so they have
it's not a metal one that you kind of.
It's not a
stick in.
metal one. The cheaper ones, the ones from
cheaper
200
ones.
milliliter, those have a metal one inside, and it works fine as well. It's not that it will catch leaf and will start to rust or create any mold. If you just rinse it out properly, then there's no problem at all.
Usually, you can remove the filters too on the cheaper ones, I think.
Not in this case. Not in the case of the ones that I'm offering.
Oh,
the it's
cheaper ones that you're offering that have the metal or
yes,
the ceramic. Oh, okay.
The metal, yes.
So only some of them, I guess.
It's quite secured in there. You could pull it out, but it's probably not going to be that easy to get it back in. So that's an average, and then of course from there on you can go specialty range. So above $100, then you'll get more interesting cues that have a more interesting pattern on them, that come in a wooden box, that are made by a special person, this and that. But for functionality wise, I would say these are more than sufficient. But also think about your drinking habits.
There is quite a range, I think, for very cheap Kyusu if you really just getting into it. Very specialty Kyusu too.
Yes. You can have flat bottom, you can have broad ones, you can have taller ones. It all depends on how you like to brew, how you like to handle them. I'm a big fan of these very tiny ones because they just sit so nicely in the hand. They're cute to look at, nice to handle, not too big, not too much. They just pour enough tea.
Pretty wide and flat.
Over the years that I've been brewing tea, these have just become like, this is the kind of teapot that I need to work with. So I think with this we've come to the end of today's chat. I will be opening the store right now so we can receive some visitors again. And I'm going to Mandokoro again this weekend. Not that I'm probably not going to make another video, it would just be the same. But if there's anything that I need to share, or of course always share some on Instagram. And we'll be here again next week. We don't have an idea yet for what we'll be talking about then. Who knows? Maybe we have some Shincha available at that time. We might introduce some Shincha, or we can find another fun topic to talk about. So again,
we're looking forward to Mandokoro Shincha, but of course we still have some from previous harvests, if I'm remembering correctly. So if you can't wait.
we still have some Mandokoro Sencha available from last year's harvest. We just had it actually,
Yes.
And it was absolutely
still very good.
It's absolutely delicious, still fresh, still very mild, sweet as well. So definitely have some of that as well. And when the new Mandokoro Sencha comes out, I would actually say get both.
It is really interesting
compare.
to compare previous harvests, especially with these kind of single cultivar, single, like very local ones. It can really change from year to year. So it's interesting to
It does.
To try to see how the taste has changed.
And we might actually do a session on that as well. Yeah. So thanks for joining today. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you again in our next talk. Have a good day. Enjoy your tea. Bye-bye.